War-torn Afghanistan seems perpetually on the bumpy road. Up ahead on this road is the scheduled presidential election and Kabul's ongoing peace process with the Taliban. As regional neighbors increase their presence, major countries like the US and Russia also shift their peace proposals. So, where is Afghanistan heading as the scheduled presidential election approaches? What's the political pattern in Afghanistan? How are peace talks progressing, and is reconstruction occurring in the war-torn country of Afghanistan? And what will be China's role in promoting peace and stability? To discuss these and other issues related to Afghanistan, I'm honored to have His Excellency Mr. Hamid Karzai, former President of Afghanistan, with me. That's our topic. This is a dialogue. I'm Yang Ray. Welcome to our program, Your Excellency.
Good to see you again. Very good to see you.
Now, what is your mission since we last saw each other? Because my photo with you impressed so many Chinese netizens in their millions.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. Yes, someone told me about that. A mutual friend told me. Well, I have been busy as I was busy on issues before that. Trying to bring peace to Afghanistan, trying to have a nice country in Afghanistan, and friendly with the neighbors and the rest of the world. That has been the mission.
Peace is so important for the post-war reconstruction in the war-torn country of Afghanistan, but how difficult is this process?
It is difficult because, unfortunately, until recently, we never saw any effort for peace in Afghanistan by the United States.
That sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. Because they were bent on getting things through fighting, and it was proven not to be working. Extremism, with 17 years of their war making in Afghanistan, did not go away, but increased. On top of it, also we saw the arrival of the Islamic State in Afghanistan. So it was a futile exercise with so much cost to Afghanistan, to the region, everybody. Now, recently, just recently, the United States has launched a new initiative for peace in Afghanistan, and we hope it succeeds. As much as I was against their war making in Afghanistan, I have now given support to their peace efforts in Afghanistan, but the latest U.S. initiative for peace in Afghanistan will bear fruits only when they fully keep the Afghan people on board and in charge, and when they genuinely seek cooperation from major powers who are our neighbors. China, for example, is our neighbor and a superpower in the world. Russia, the same way, and our neighbors as well. Therefore, a successful U.S. effort for peace will mean Afghanistan doing its part fully and independently, and the U.S. seeking the cooperation of China. That will bring us peace, and I'm sure that if the U.S. extends the hands of cooperation to China, China will support it, and Russia will support it as well.
Do you think Afghanistan could have enough investment in the reconstruction? And where does the investment actually come from?
With peace in Afghanistan, Afghanistan will have plenty of investment in reconstruction. China will be the first to do that. China was the first to do that when Afghanistan was more stable some years ago. China invested nearly $5 billion and even more in a copper field in Afghanistan, and China invested in the oil and gas industries in Afghanistan and lots of others. So,
but what about the return of the Chinese investment in your country? Because our viewers and netizens are so seriously concerned about business deals. It's, on the one hand, humanitarian relief, of course, is part of our mission, but, but on the other hand, it's investment.
Yes. Without the slightest doubt. Definitely. when peace returns to Afghanistan, so will be the profits on investment to those who have invested in Afghanistan. So I can assure the people of China, our friends in China, that with peace in Afghanistan, Chinese investment in Afghanistan will have tremendous returns for China.
A skeptical media in the West would always follow what happens between India and China. Our Indian friends always say, look, Afghanistan is part of their turf, in their understatement. Do you agree?
We are a Central Asian country, we are a South Asian country, and we are a West Asian country. We are a Central Asian country because of tremendous civilizational links with Central Asia and historic links with Central Asia and geographical connection to Central Asia. We are a South Asian country because of tremendous links with South Asia and geographical links. We are a West Asian country because of our historic links with Iran and language and religion and all that. We are also very much part of the Chinese connection. China is a neighbor of Afghanistan. China has a border with Afghanistan, more than 85 kilometers of border of Afghanistan in the northeast of the country. So we are nobody's turf. We are a country of our own, and we have relationships of our own. We want to have tremendously good relations with India, and India has been a tremendous help to Afghanistan, but we are also a good friend of China, and China has been a great friend of Afghanistan. So what we seek is cooperation on Afghanistan, not competition on Afghanistan.
Let's look at the role of Pakistan. We have a Pakistani Taliban and a Taliban in Afghanistan. And basically for the Chinese viewers, they have no idea about the relationship between these two Taliban organizations. And obviously, Islamabad is part of the peace process in your country.
Very much part of the peace process. Islamabad is very much part of the peace process because it is very much part of the problem as well.
Okay.
The reason is that the United States and Pakistan, unfortunately, historically have been together promoting extremism in Afghanistan. This is when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. The Americans, in order to weaken the Soviet Union and defeat the Soviet Union, planned to use religious extremism as a tool against the former Soviet Union. And Pakistan and some Arab countries, unfortunately, joined hands with the United States in the promotion of extremism in Afghanistan, with massive costs for the Afghan people and eventually for the region and for Pakistan itself. The Pakistani people have now suffered as closely as much as Afghans have suffered. So there is tremendous reason for Pakistan, for its own safety and security, for its own prosperity, to begin to distance itself from the use of extremism and cooperate with China, cooperate with Afghanistan.
One follow-up question on your response is that everybody knows in this country that Pakistan remains an all-weather friend of China for years. On the one hand, Beijing attaches great importance to the post-war reconstruction in your country, as you said earlier. On the other hand, you said Islamabad is part of the problem there. But this is contradictory against each other. How can Islamabad say one thing and do quite another?
This has been happening for a long time, saying something and doing another thing. But on the question of China's friendship with Pakistan, China and Pakistan being all-weather friends, we see it as a positive. We see it as good. We want China's friendship with Pakistan to expand, to deepen. We are also a great friend of China and a good neighbor of China. And China has been a tremendous ally and supporter to Afghanistan as well. Therefore, Chinese friendship with Pakistan we see as an asset towards positive. And we, for this reason, have been seeking China's participation in contribution to improving relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and to together, all the three of us, effectively fighting against extremism.
And do you think Afghanistan has fallen victim to the competitions or regional competitions between Islamabad and New Delhi?
Yes, it has, unfortunately, very much. It has fallen victim to that competition. It has also fallen
In what
victim
way?
In ways of negative forces activated in Afghanistan both ways. And we are a victim also of our strategic location and circumstances. So because China is our neighbor, and China is a superpower, the second biggest economy in the world, and soon going to be the first economy of the world, and Russia, another superpower, a neighbor of Afghanistan, and there is Iran. So the presence of the United States, many consider to be in relationship to that strategic location of Afghanistan. And the way they have conducted themselves is to us, visibly, a presence in order to watch or do things in a neighborhood that's extremely important to them as well. That has negative fallouts for Afghanistan. So we propose to the United States that the only way that they can stay safely in Afghanistan and for longer term is for them to be in a cooperative mood with China and with Russia, that negative competition will not make their stay in Afghanistan viable.
Understood, Your Excellency. Now, both Pakistan and India have been recruited by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Yes.
From the point of view of an observer in Kabul,
yes,
what do you think of this platform of SCO in addressing the regional issues? Because SCO is such an important part in peace and stability, particularly in the process of development in Central Asia, which is an important part of the Euro-Asian continent or strategy. So what do you make of the role that Shanghai Cooperation Organization plays in cementing the solidarity of the local powers?
Very, very important. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an effective instrument for stability and cooperation in our larger region. And we are glad that all the three major powers of the region, China, Russia, India, are part of it. So is Pakistan. So are countries of Central Asia.
Turkey
As well, and Iran, and Afghanistan as an observer. So India's joining Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we see it as a positive development, and we hope that through the cooperative working within this organization, Afghanistan will be one of the first beneficiaries of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's what we strive
And what do you
for.
think of the partnership between Moscow and Beijing? Because Russia and China reach out to each other through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which, as I said earlier, is an important part of the Euro-Asian vision. And President Putin calls for the implementation of his Euro-Asian Economic Union. And we have the Belt and Road Initiative. These two brilliant children from the two politicians, Mr. Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart, have been integrated with each other. It's not necessarily a conflict, right?
We attach high value to Chinese-Russian cooperation and friendship. Not only for the stability of Eurasian, Central Asian, South Asian, and West Asian region, but also for global balance and stability. So it's a very different scale of relationship, the Chinese-Russian relationship, regionally and globally. For Afghanistan, we are, by all standards, a very keen observer of the Chinese-Russian friendship and cooperation, We believe that this cooperation is one of the best hopes for us for the return of peace and stability in Afghanistan.
Very quickly, Your Excellency, do you think the special strategic partnership between Moscow and Beijing together will be an effort to tip the balance across the Pacific Ocean or the Indo-Pacific Ocean? Because President Trump and his team vow to launch a kind of a campaign that may not necessarily be compared in parallel to the Cold War, but from the beginning of the trade standoff, as well as other efforts to restrict the influence of China by the Trump administration, do you believe China and Russia taking side together will help restrict the assertiveness and ambition of Washington?
Yes.
At this moment?
Well, effectively, we are in a Cold War.
You believe we are already in a Cold War?
You see, we're already in a new world order. We are already in a multipolar order. We're not moving in that direction. We are already there. China is now a confirmed global power. Russia is a confirmed global power. India is rising as well. So we're already in a multipolar setup. Now, the Chinese-Russian cooperation on global strategic issues is definitely a balancer and a shifter in the power play that we see around. Yes, to answer in positive, Chinese-Russian relationship does have impacts in that regard.
But of course, Chinese leaders would do whatever they can to avert a repeat of a Cold War, while we seek to pursue an inclusive world economic order, not necessarily at the cost of the existing one.
Yes.
Through Belt and Road. Now, having said this, let's take a closer look at a very embarrassing issue that is drawn scathing criticism from the Western media about our western frontier, Xinjiang. Muslims, they are our brothers and sisters.
They are.
But the way we help maintain the stability in Xinjiang drew a lot of attention from the world media. Muslims, and if you like, I'm not talking about generally Muslims, but the extremists of among the Muslims may constitute a threat to the stability of this region in China. So do you think in Afghanistan you would join hand with China in partnership with India and particularly Pakistan to nip it in the bud before we have this rise of Islamic extremism to threaten the stability in this part of the world?
As I mentioned earlier, religious extremism was a tool used by the United States and some of its allies, unfortunately Pakistan as well, in trying to weaken and defeat the former Soviet Union. That tool continued to be used as well in Afghanistan. And that is why we don't see a defeat of extremism and terrorism. Had there been genuinely an intention to defeat extremism, it would have been defeated by now, because the whole world cooperated with the United States. So the fact that it didn't happen, the fact that the war continued, means that that was not the intention. Now, clearly there is a difference between Islam and religious extremism. Islam is a victim of religious extremism. Muslims are a victim of religious extremism. With regard to China, with regard to the use of extremism, religious extremism against China, we are aware. We are a witness to that in Afghanistan. We have seen that in Afghanistan. We cooperated with China in stemming in the bud extremism that was affecting China. And it will be an ideal situation, as you mentioned, if China, India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan could work together And that will definitely be a shifter in the balance against extremism if it were to happen, and we would welcome it.
Thank you so much for being with us in the first part of our program. You are watching Dialogue with Mr. Karzai, former president of Afghanistan. We'll be back in a short while. Stay with us, please. Pakistan was a victim of terrorism and for fighting terrorism.
The people of Pakistan were victims of terrorism. The government of Pakistan, the military establishment of Pakistan, has been hand in hand with the United States of America in promoting extremism in Pakistan and in the region. They did it together. Pakistan needs to clearly distance itself from any policies within Pakistan or in cooperation with beyond Pakistan that will promote extremism. Rather, Pakistan should join hands with China effectively in combating extremism, and Afghanistan will be happily and willingly part of that.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Now, let us know more about Pashtun, major tribe in your country. Do you think the new government that was somehow put there by Americans and the NATO could only account for a minor part of the territory, for the major part of your map in Afghanistan? They are under the control of the Taliban, and behind the Taliban is the major tribe of Pashtun.
With the arrival of the United States in NATO in 2001, 2002, after the tragedy of September 11, the Afghan people welcomed that force to Afghanistan. For the first time, the majority of the Afghan people welcomed a foreign force in our country in order to help free ourselves from a creeping invasion and from extremism and from all of that taking our territory. Al-Qaeda, some of those elements. And the reason the United States succeeded initially was for two distinct reasons. Factors. One, the support of the Afghan people. Two, the support of the larger international community. The whole of the United Nations, and especially our big neighbors. China, for example, was a tremendous supporter with the United States initially. And it continued for a long, long time in Afghanistan. But when the war continued, and when especially the Islamic State arrived in Afghanistan, then suspicions emerged as to why and how come, rather than seeing results towards the positive against extremism, we see more of it. Today, yes, more territory is under the hands of the Taliban, but the Taliban are not belonging to one ethnic group in Afghanistan, no. We have them now in many parts of the country. We have them now in northern Afghanistan, in northeastern Afghanistan, and around the capital of the country. It may seem like one ethnic group is supporting the Taliban in Afghanistan, but no. The fact is that now they have elements in all the ethnic groups of Afghanistan. They are a local force now.
Let me go back to the issue of the Taliban in Pakistan. Now, right after the September 11th, the terrorist attacks occurred in Washington, New York. Islamabad came under fire and came under huge pressure from Washington, urging politicians in this country to take side. Armitage, Deputy Secretary of State, said, you either take side with us or you'll be bombed back to the historic Stone Age. So the economy of Pakistan plunged as a result of taking side with the United States. Pakistan paid a heavy price. So it might not be fair to say that Pakistan is a part of the problem. And I've interviewed Mr. Musharraf at least twice, and he said, along with other senior politicians in this country, that Pakistan was a victim of terrorism and for fighting terrorism. So what do you think of their concerns?
The people of Pakistan, no doubt, are victims of terrorism. The people of Pakistan. the people of Pakistan are victims of terrorism. The government of Pakistan, the military establishment of Pakistan, has been hand in hand with the United States of America in promoting extremism in Pakistan and in the region. They did it together. As I mentioned, they were allies. When the Soviet Union came to Afghanistan, Pakistan and the United States were allies. And in that alliance, they designed the use of extremism to the defeat of Soviet Union.
At the same time, Islamabad complained bitterly that the United States failed to honor their pledge to provide the country with economic and military assistance.
That's a different side of their relationship. There are too many sides to their relationship. There are certain facts. Fact number one, the government of Pakistan and the US were together in the promotion of extremism, religious extremism in that region, in Afghanistan especially.
But children of the Pakistani army were killed by extremists.
Yes, exactly.
How could they take side with the terrorists?
They did, and that was the consequence of it.
And the crusade was launched by President Musharraf and his successor to try to eliminate all the terrorists in the mountainous areas.
Those that were affecting Pakistan were tried to be eliminated, but those who were hurting Afghanistan were supported.
And the authorities in Islamabad are clearly aware that without eliminating the elements of instability or terrorism, it would be absolutely impossible for the two sides, Islamabad and Beijing, to construct the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is an important part of the Belt and Road Initiative.
Exactly.
How could the authorities in Islamabad be part of the problem?
Exactly. Now, this is the area that we hope a vision will emerge for the prosperity of Pakistan, for the prosperity of the region, for the One Belt, One Road project to succeed. Pakistan needs to clearly distance itself from any policies within Pakistan or in cooperation with beyond Pakistan that will promote extremism. Rather, Pakistan should join hands with China effectively in combating extremism, and Afghanistan will be happily and willingly part of that.
If possible, I would convey your message of goodwill to the ambassador of Pakistan and their politicians in my interviews.
Please do.
By the way, Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said in December that Pakistan is always keen to have China to be part of efforts for the Afghan peace process, and he is glad that China is playing a more active role for Afghanistan's development and reconstruction. What do you make of his remarks?
We welcome those remarks. Those are good remarks. We support these remarks, and we would also like to be part of Chinese efforts for stability in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, and we like the three countries to work together, led by a Chinese initiative.
Thank you very much for your goodwill, vision, and friendship. I do enjoy and appreciate this conversation with you, as I did before.
Thank you, sir. Good to talk to you. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.